My boss told me to wear tighter clothes, so I wore a wire instead. You heard that right. What started as just another Monday in corporate hell turned into a full-blown FBI investigation. And I, Amelia Hart, the girl with a closet full of oversized blazers and a heart full of rage, became the unexpected star witness in a takedown no one saw coming. Before I spill the juicy details, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. What would you do if your boss crossed the line? Because in my case, I didn't just clap back. I made sure he'd never forget the sound of wire tape clicking on. But buckle in, because this story isn't just about my creepy boss. There's a narcissistic mother, a boyfriend who couldn't keep it zipped, a sister with a god complex, and a grandmother who taught me more about revenge than any courtroom drama ever could. By the end of this story, you'll understand why I don't wear tighter clothes. But I do wear justice like a custom-fit power suit. Let's rewind. I didn't think much of the email at first. Subject line: Team Presentation Guidelines. Sent from my boss, Clark Donovan, Regional Sales Director and part-time sleazebag. It was 9:12 a.m. and I was already 2 coffees deep, trying to survive another soul-crushing Monday in our fluorescent-lit zoo of an office. I clicked it open, expecting the usual jargon about slides, color palettes, and maybe an annoying reminder to smile more. But no. The third bullet point stopped me cold. Dress to impress. Think smart, sharp, and form-fitting. Winking face. Yes. The man used a winking emoji in a corporate email. My stomach twisted. I glanced around the open floor. Was anyone else reacting? Did any other women on the team get this? Or was this just for me? I was the only woman under 30 in the sales team. And yeah, I was considered attractive. Whatever that means when your job is just hitting quotas and dodging coffee breath from middle-aged managers. My jaw clenched. I forwarded the email to my personal Gmail. Not sure why. Instinct maybe. Or the voice of my grandma who always said, never throw away the first receipt. You never know when you'll need to burn someone with it. I wish I could say that was the worst part. But things were just warming up. That afternoon, Clark stopped by my cubicle with a fake smile and real condescension. Hey Amelia, he said. You know, big meeting tomorrow. The investors love confidence. Might want to skip the baggy stuff. Show off a little. Just saying. I blinked. He actually said it. Out loud. I looked him dead in the eyes and asked, are you suggesting I wear tighter clothes to impress investors? He chuckled. Don't be so serious, Hart. I'm just trying to help you win. That's when I made my first choice. I hit record. The voice memo app on my phone would become my new best friend. And I had no idea that this was only day 1 of a 3-month firestorm that would end in handcuffs. And not the sexy kind. If my office life was toxic, my home life was radioactive. You'd think after a day like that I could come home, pour a glass of wine, vent to my family, and get some support. Think again. The moment I stepped through the door of our modest suburban house, I knew the vibes were off. My mom was sitting on the couch with a martini in hand, at 5:15 p.m., wearing her usual silk robe like she was the queen of Long Island. Amelia, you look tired, she said with a smirk. Didn't I tell you that shapeless jacket makes you look like a school principal? Try a pencil skirt sometime. Men like curves. I froze. Had she and Clark been texting behind my back? Rough day. My sister Chloe chimed in from the kitchen, popping gum and scrolling TikTok. Still pretending you're going to make it in corporate? Girl, you should have married Jason when you had the chance. My ex. The one who cheated on me with a waitress named Peach. Yes, Peach. Like the emoji. I gritted my teeth. No, Chloe. I don't need a man to make it. And I don't need your advice. My mom said, don't get snippy. You'll get wrinkles. That mouth will age you faster than any paycheck ever could. Grandma Margaret, bless her heart, shuffled in from the hallway and raised a single eyebrow. Y'all are just mad she has ambition. Let the girl talk about her day before you drag her down like anchors. I could have kissed that woman. Thanks, Grandma, I muttered. She winked at me. You record it? I stared at her. What? The creep. The boss. You record what he said. I nodded slowly. How did you? Because baby, men like that don't just toe the line. They jump over it in golf shoes. Now go upstairs. Cool off. And back it up to a cloud. Trust me. My family didn't know it yet, but Grandma just became my co-conspirator. And I was ready for war. I started recording every interaction with Clark. At first, it was just creepy innuendo. His usual slime disguised as career advice. Confidence is key, Amelia, he'd say. And nothing says confidence like a woman who knows how to work a bodycon dress. Or, the girls in marketing get more attention from the board. Maybe it's the skirts. Just saying. I saved them all. Labeled, dated, backed up in 3 places. But then he escalated. It was a Friday. Everyone else had left early. Clark called me into his office to go over projections. The blinds were closed. He leaned on the desk. Look, I'll be honest. The VP spot's coming up. You've got potential. But the board needs to see you're versatile. Not just on paper. In presence. I didn't say a word. I just let the silence stretch. He mistook it for interest. Look, I can put in a word for you, he said. But this isn't just about numbers. It's about chemistry. Team dynamics. I was still recording. That night, I sat on my bed listening to his words over and over. My hands were shaking. This wasn't just sleazy. It was criminal. I sent the audio to my grandma with one line. Still think I'm overreacting? She replied, he's done. Call my friend. She's with the DA's office. And that was the beginning of the end for Clark Donovan. I never knew just how many skeletons my grandma had buried. Or rather, how many powerful people owed her favors. Her friend from the DA's office? Assistant District Attorney Linda Sanchez. Tough, brilliant, and according to Grandma, the kind of woman who scares judges into behaving. We met in a quiet corner booth at a diner downtown. Grandma insisted on bringing a folder filled with neatly labeled thumb drives and a spiral notebook full of dates, times, and quotes I had shared over dinner. Apparently, she'd been documenting everything I vented about for months. Ada Sanchez listened carefully. She didn't interrupt. Didn't blink when she heard Clark's voice call me a sales tool with legs. When the audio clip ended, she leaned forward and said, "This isn't just HR-level stuff. This is Title VII, civil harassment, potential criminal coercion. And if he's done this to you, he's done it to others. You willing to go public?" I swallowed hard. Yes, but I wanted to count. I want him gone. Not just a slap on the wrist. She nodded. Then we wire you up properly. And we build a case he can't slither out of. Grandma sipped her coffee like this was just another Tuesday. You sure you're ready for this, honey? She asked. I looked out the diner window. The reflection staring back wasn't the quiet, rule-following Amelia I used to be. Let's do it. Grandma called it Operation Tightrope. Because one wrong step and I'd fall into a pit full of snakes. And one of those snakes wore Italian leather and a smug smile. The plan was simple, in theory. Go to work. Wear the tight dress Clark loved. Let him talk. And catch it all on tape. But knowing Clark, I'd have to bait the hook just right. Grandma handed me the wire. Sleek, tiny, practically invisible. Don't you dare flinch, she warned. You flinch and he wins. The next morning, I pulled out the tightest thing I owned. A red bodycon dress from a bachelorette party 2 years ago. Not exactly work attire. But Clark had once said, "You look powerful in red." I walked into the office like I owned the building. Clark's eyes widened. Wow, that's more like it. I smiled, turned on the charm, and kept my mic hot. The first 2 hours were filled with microaggressions and suggestive comments. Nothing big enough to take to court, but enough to show a pattern. But then he crossed the line. He cornered me in the copy room. Leaned in way too close. If you really wanted that promotion, Amelia, you'd show me how much you want it. I didn't breathe. Just let the silence stretch. He reached out, fingertips barely brushing my waist. And then, in the calmest voice I've ever mustered, I said, "You're going to regret that." He laughed. "Oh yeah, you gonna tweet about it?" "No," I said. "I'll do you one better." I walked out. Straight to my car. Straight to Grandma's house. We played back the tape together. Her lips pursed. "That's enough for the DA," she said. "Now let's bury this bastard." The next day, I handed the recording over to one of Grandma's old contacts. A former federal prosecutor turned advocate for workplace harassment cases. Within hours, the legal wheels were spinning. Clark had no idea. He sent me a text that night. "Same outfit tomorrow?" Smirking face. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because Operation Tightrope had just gone public. I walked into HR the next morning, confident, composed, recording tucked in my back pocket. Diane from HR with her cat brooch and pastel cardigans gave me a pinched smile. How can I help you, Amelia? I laid the USB drive on the desk like a grenade. This is a recording of Clark. Sexual harassment. I want it filed formally. Her face didn't change. Not even a twitch. Let me see what I can do. He plugged it in. Played 20 seconds. Then paused it. Amelia, she said slowly, you know recording someone without their consent is illegal in this state, right? I looked it up. It's a one-party consent state. She sighed. Even so, I think it's best we settle this quietly. Clark is very valuable to this company. There was loyalty to power, not people. What you're saying is you won't report him? I'm saying, she whispered, leaning closer, if you push this you might lose your job, your reputation, your references. I walked out, shaking with fury. But I wasn't afraid, as I had Grandma. And Grandma didn't do quiet. Time to go nuclear, Grandma said, sliding her phone across the table. She'd rallied her friends, a small army of retired women with sharp minds, sharper tongues, and social media accounts that had gone strangely viral during lockdown. One of them, Phyllis, ran a blog called Corporate Karma. Another, Miss Jewel, was TikTok famous for roasting predators with southern sass and perfect eyeliner. We're going public, Phyllis said. But we do it smart. Blur your voice, distort the audio. Tell the story without giving them a target. Within hours, the video was live. A young woman was told to wear tighter clothes for a promotion. She wore a wire instead. The post exploded. Shares, comments, thousands of women tagging friends. This is exactly what happened to me. Clark still had no idea. Until Monday morning when he walked into the office and saw every screen tuned to Good Morning America. They were covering my story. His face turned the color of expired mayonnaise. Clark stormed into my cubicle, fists clenched. You think this is funny? You think humiliating me is some kind of game? Everyone in the office fell silent. Phones lifted. Cameras recording. You humiliated yourself, I said calmly. I just pressed play. You're done here. You're fired. I smiled. You don't have the authority. That's HR's job. Diane arrived seconds later, dragging 2 security guards behind her. Clark, she said, voice tight. You're being placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. He sputtered. Rage. Knocked a mug off someone's desk. You think I'm the bad guy? I built this place. I leaned in. Then you should have built it with respect. The guards escorted him out, shouting the whole way. I stood there, calm as a pond, surrounded by silent coworkers who suddenly looked at me like I was someone else entirely. Someone untouchable. The investigation moved fast. Turns out I wasn't the only one. 4 other women came forward. Past interns, assistants, temps, each with a version of the same story. Some had texts. Others had emails. One had saved a voicemail. Clark's reputation crumbled overnight. The company issued a statement. We are committed to a safe workplace. Classic PR fluff. But Diane from HR? She resigned. Quietly. No fanfare. As for me, I got promoted. Not because they suddenly saw my worth, but because they were scared. I took the raise. And the corner office. But I never forgot how it all started. 1 month later, I met Clark again. Not in an office, but at a deposition. He looked tired. Defeated. Greasy hair and a cheap tie. His lawyer tried to rattle me. I didn't flinch. When they asked why I recorded the conversation, I said simply, because I knew no one would believe me unless I brought the truth with me. The case settled. Big payout. But I didn't care about the money. I cared that the next woman wouldn't have to whisper. I cared that my niece would grow up in a world where tight clothes don't equal invitations. And I cared that Grandma's smile when I told her everything was over was the biggest I'd ever seen. Damn right it is, she said. And now you know. Revenge is best served in heels with a lawyer and a plan. The very next morning I walked into work with my head high, but the whispers began before I even made it to my desk. She's the one, I heard someone murmur. Wore a wire, snitched on Clark. Apparently word had gotten out faster than wildfire. And in true corporate fashion, people were either terrified or giddy with gossip. My inbox had 3 anonymous emails. One simply read, "You're brave." Another, "You're done." The third one, A forwarded meme of a witch being burned at the stake. It stung. But Grandma had warned me, when you rattle power, it either bites or begs. Clark wasn't in the office. Rumors said he was on leave. But I knew better. He was being questioned by internal legal and the DA's office. The case was growing bigger than I imagined. The DA's assistant called. Amelia, we may need your full cooperation. If you're ready, you could be the key to blowing open not just Clark's misconduct, but a cover-up going all the way up to the VP. I exhaled. This was bigger than revenge now. It was justice. That night, I curled up with tea while Grandma cleaned her gun. Not metaphorically. She still had her old Colt revolver from the 80s. She saw my stress and said, "Let me tell you about the time I blew the lid off a medical billing scandal in '91. Lost friends, lost income. But I gained peace and a clean conscience." She talked for an hour about intimidation, media backlash, and her one moment in the courtroom when a corrupt CO cried under cross-examination. "They called me a liar until they had no choice but to call me a hero," she said. I leaned against her and whispered, "I hope I'm as strong as you." He grinned. "You already are, baby. And you're better dressed." The company tried to do damage control. They called me into a reconciliation meeting with HR and a new VP. Their idea of peace? Asking me to sign an NDA and offering me 6 months of pay to quietly leave. I looked at the stack of papers. You want me to sign this and pretend I was never harassed? Pretend Clark didn't make those comments, touch my waist in meetings, and tell me to dress more inviting? The VP smiled like a crocodile. "We're just trying to make this easy for everyone." I pulled out a copy of the wire transcript and placed it on the table. "Then let's make it easy. Here's the evidence. And here's my lawyer's card. And here's the phone number for a journalist from the Post who's very interested in this case." I walked out. They didn't follow. The next day, Jenny, yes, my favorite sweater-stealing sister, barged into my apartment. "You're embarrassing the family," she shouted. "You came into my apartment just to say that? Mom's friends are talking. Everyone's acting like you're some media crusader. Like you did this for attention." "Oh please," I snapped. "You wore a crop top to Uncle David's funeral and I'm the embarrassment?" She threw a pillow at me. I laughed. Then she collapsed on the couch, deflated. "I'm scared for you. I don't trust people like them. You're fighting giants, Amelia." For once, there was no sarcasm in her voice. I sat next to her. "Yeah. But I'm not fighting alone anymore." We didn't hug. We weren't a hugging family. But she stayed on my couch and we watched reruns of Friends like we were 10 again. The article dropped. Corporate harassment exposed. One woman's wiretap may shatter a Fortune 500 company. They used a silhouette for my photo, but the story was mine. Word for word. I expected backlash. But instead, I got over 200 messages in 24 hours. Women from across the country, accountants, waitresses, law clerks, sharing their stories, telling me I wasn't alone. A women's legal advocacy group offered me protection and a platform. And most importantly, the DA filed formal charges against Clark. I stood in my bathroom looking at myself in the mirror. Same reflection. New spine. Grandma knocked on the door. "They just called. You've been subpoenaed as the key witness." "Good," I said. "Let's finish this." I sat across from Clark in the cold, gray conference room. His eyes were sunken. For once he looked human. Vulnerable. But I knew better. Monsters wear many masks. The court reporter adjusted her mic. "State your name for the record." "Amelia Grace Harper," I said clearly. Clark's lawyer was the sleek, oily type, Harvard tie, fake tan, and teeth too white to trust. "Miss Harper, these recordings, did you edit any of them?" I smiled sweetly. "I don't know how to use editing software. But the DA's lab has verified their authenticity." His smirk cracked. Grandma, sitting behind me like the ghost of vengeance past, winked. Chapter 17. Secrets in the server room. Late one night, Theo, our IT mole, texted me. "You need to see this." The server room was off limits, but Theo was head of cybersecurity. And he was furious. He showed me a folder buried in the company's backup drives. One Clark thought he'd deleted. HR complaints. Dozens. Women's voices. Same stories. Same predator. Theo's hands were shaking. They buried this. For years. We copied it all. It wasn't just about Clark anymore. It was the whole system. My stomach turned. This wasn't just revenge now. It was a reckoning. The courtroom buzzed with media, protesters outside holding signs with my name. I'd become a symbol, a movement I never intended. Clark's team tried to paint me as unstable, vindictive. But the wire recordings, the deleted HR files, the witness testimonies? Unshakable. When the jury heard Clark say on tape, "Wear tighter clothes or don't bother showing up," you could feel the room shift. A collective intake of breath. The D raised his brows like, checkmate. Clark's lawyer slumped like a balloon losing air. Mom called during lunch break. "You're humiliating us. On television." "I'm doing the right thing," I said. Maybe for the first time in my life. She hung up. But that night I got a voicemail from my sister Madison. I saw the clip. "You're brave." I was wrong. "Grandma just poured us tea. Told you. Sometimes you have to set fire to the bridge if the trolls underneath won't move." It came down like thunder. Clark, guilty. Fired. Fined. Facing prison. The company, sued into oblivion. Settlements rolling in for every woman they ignored. Me. I walked out of that courtroom free, proud, and not wearing anything tight unless I wanted to. Grandma linked her arm through mine. "So, you want to go home and bake cookies? Or sue your father's country club for tax fraud?" I grinned. "Let's do both." The clip went viral within 48 hours. Not just corporate viral, internet viral. Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. Every platform had Amelia's audio snippets. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag tight clothes trap, hashtag wired and fired, and even hashtag grandma vengeance. I woke up to a phone vibrating like it was in cardiac arrest. Hundreds of missed calls. Dozens of voicemails. Messages from reporters, influencers, even my high school nemesis pretending to check in. And then came the death threats. "Clark's career is over," said Grandma over coffee, scrolling through Reddit on her ancient iPad. But now we find out who was protecting him. Grandma had a hunch. Not just about Clark. About the board. "He's not the head. He's the puppet," she muttered. So we dug deeper. Emails surfaced. From private servers. A senior VP, Susan Whitmore, was funneling hush money to victims for years. All signed off in bonuses, coded language, and legal threats. "I used to prosecute people like her," Grandma said, pulling up her old Rolodex. "Let's see if my favorite IRS bulldog still bites." We made the call. You'd think Mom would be supportive now. "Nope. You humiliated us. The neighbors won't even wave at me," she screamed. "Susan's my friend. We play bridge. Your friend pays off abuse survivors, Mom." And like that, the mask slipped. Mom wasn't just complicit, she was benefiting. Susan was her social ladder, and my case was about to knock it down. The next day, she served me with a cease and desist. From my own mother. But I didn't flinch. Clark was done. Susan was cornered. The boardroom now resembled a shark tank. I showed up in a bold red power suit. Grandma next to me, dressed like she was attending court and a funeral, because this was both. Susan tried to settle. 7 figures. "Nope," I said. I wanted public accountability. So we went to deposition. On record. Under oath. And we played everything. Clark crying. Chur lying. Susan signing. The silence in that room wasn't awkward. It was historic. Clark lost his license to practice business. Susan, facing criminal charges. The company restructured. They offered me a role on the ethics committee. I declined. I got an email from Netflix. But I didn't take it. Instead, I opened a foundation, Tightrope, to support workplace survivors. And my family? Mom's still angry. My sister won't talk to me. But Grandma? She threw me a retirement party before I even hit 30. "Justice," she said, "is best served with tea and a shotgun lawyer." The courtroom buzzed like a beehive. Clark, now looking like a shadow of the smug executive he once was, sat stiffly beside his expensive lawyer. The media was everywhere. Cameras. Microphones. Protest signs. Hashtags were trending. I took the stand. "Please state your name for the court." Amelia Rose Carter. I scanned the courtroom and saw my mother glaring from the back, my sister whispering into her phone. Grandma sat up front, proudly smirking like she was at a damn Broadway show. My voice didn't shake. I played the recordings. Every sleazy comment. Every creepy request. Every threat he made. One by one, the truth drowned the silence. Clark's defense? That I wanted the attention. The judge raised an eyebrow so high I thought it might fly off her forehead. Clark's lawyer tried to twist things. You wore the wire voluntarily. You sought him out in private. Why not quit if it was so unbearable? I didn't blink. Because I had the right to work without being harassed. I had the right to wear my clothes, not his fantasies. It didn't take long. The jury took 2 hours. 2 hours to decide my future, his downfall, and the precedent this case would set for women in corporate America. The verdict? Guilty. On all counts. Clark was sentenced. Jail time. Fines. And the company was slapped with a massive lawsuit. The HR head was fired. 3 other executives were exposed. Turns out Clark wasn't the only one playing God with people's careers. But the most satisfying part? When Clark's assets were seized, including the lake house where he had once cornered me. Guess who bought it at auction? Grandma. At the victory dinner, Mom showed up uninvited. Are you happy now, Amelia? You destroyed your career. Dragged our family name through the mud. I stood tall. No, Mom. I cleaned it. She stormed out, leaving behind my sister who muttered something about therapy and followed her like a loyal puppy. I didn't care. My phone buzzed. I had 47 emails from law firms, women's rights groups, and documentary producers. Grandma raised a toast. To tight clothes, tighter plans, and the tightest revenge of all. I didn't go back to corporate America. Instead, I became a consultant for workplace harassment reform. My first gig? Helping rewrite the HR policy at a Fortune 500 company. The irony. People listen to me now. I went on TV, wrote a book, even did a TEDx talk titled, Wear a Wire, Not Their Expectations. Grandma joined me on stage once and nearly stole the spotlight with her story about flipping off her World War II commanding officer. My voice was no longer a whisper. It was a force. A year later, I got an anonymous tip. A young intern from my old company forwarded me a Dropbox folder. Inside, evidence that Clark had been helped by a silent board member all along. Someone who greenlit hush money payouts. And guess what? That board member was my aunt. My mom's sister. It wasn't just Clark. It was a network. A whole corrupt machine. So I made one call to the same investigative reporter who broke my first story. Because revenge is best served not just cold, but systemic. And I was just getting started. But share, subscribe. Because when your boss tells you to wear tighter clothes, maybe it's time to wear a wire instead.